Well, hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Purchasing Made Personal podcast. I'm your host, Michael Tucker, and we're continuing down a track that's on the front of everyone's minds, or at least it should be, right? And you can already tell by the title, we're diving into the use of AI in the public sector. And I'm actually very excited to have a guest on today from a municipality. I'll let him introduce himself. But Aran Raz, welcome to the podcast today. We couldn't be more thrilled to have you on.
Thank you so much, Michael. Yeah, Aran Raz. I'm the procurement manager of the City of Westminster in Colorado. I've been in procurement for pretty well over a decade. I've been in this role for over 4 years. And I was brought in 4 years ago to centralize procurement for the first time. So kind of leads me to, and I'm sure we'll get into how
Yeah,
that brought me AI, but this is really something to come in and start from scratch. And there's a lot of challenges that come with that. Prior to this, I was at Denver International Airport as a manager there. And prior to that, with the state of Colorado, both at Natural Resources and the Attorney General's office. So got to see a lot of different things happen and live in the world of procurement in multiple
absolutely.
capacities.
And that's why, again, I'm so thankful that you would take the time to join our little podcast here and talk about this because, like you said, and you hinted towards, you didn't step into some immaculate AI program that you have today that we'll get into the specifics of, right? AI as itself wasn't even around, when you were even starting. So I guess what were some of the things that got you thinking towards implementing some type of AI assistance? What are some things or problems that you faced that you kind of began to overcome? And how did this whole journey start to where you're kind of becoming one of the foremost public procurement people utilizing AI? More on that in a minute. But how did all this start?
So, you know, giving a little more background is when I came in, you're right, there wasn't really AI. In fact, the large language models weren't really available to us. I think we all saw AI, maybe in a chat bot at your bank or something, or customer service. But we didn't have Chat GPT. That wasn't launched till later, and some other things. And I didn't have any resources here. We didn't have a procurement module built in with our ERP. We did have a very basic version of an e-procurement system that was being used, and
Right.
my staff, I inherited one staff member who would take the specs and the RFP or whatever solicitation they did, post it onto our platform for a week or two at best, get it back, hand it back over to the PM, and that's it. Have a great day. So we didn't have policies, procedures, rules, anything to tie back to our municipal code. So I came in having to create resources because people are now curious. Wow, we have procurement. How do we do this? I've
Right.
heard of it, or I've come from a different place, and we used to do procurement. What's that going to look like here? So I needed to create resources. So, like many of us, beg, steal, borrow. I took what I had from my history, from the
Yes.
state, from Denver. Uh, I helped revamp some of that at the airport or at Denver with that team. So I felt very confident to take that and bring it here and customize it. But soon buried. We didn't have an intake process. It was an email. And the challenge is, um, for example, last year alone, I received 6,800 emails, second heaviest user in the entire city. And I was only able to respond to 5,300, and that was not good enough. Actually, that was 2 years ago. So
Wow.
that wasn't good enough. So clearly, I had a problem that I felt
Of
like I
course.
was filling very fast, and I didn't have the staff to do anything with it. Well, come 23. I'm trying to remember when it was that chat launched, and I was one of the first people on there playing around with it, because I am a techie nerd and love getting into that world.
Sure. Sure.
Um, I started playing around and realizing, wow, this is really good to make me to give me a better response than the frustrated email I wanted to send. So I think I started like most people
Yeah.
who are starting in that world, and some of the people who are dabbling now of, "Hey, make this nicer." So I don't wanna make more enemies.
Uh-huh.
The other thing I was using it for was vacation. It was fantastic to not go to Google and filter through 50 ads, where I can just say, "Hey, tell me of a nice little village in France I can go to," and give me 5 bullet points of w why I should go to that particular one. So I
Yeah.
started using that. It was fantastic. Um, More background is somewhere at the end of 23, I went through a lot of challenges in life, had some challenges here with staff. Things were just really rough, and I felt like I was getting beat up. And oddly enough, I went to a Tony Robbins event, uh, Unleash the Ultimate Power, and I've always, followed in the background Tony Robbins.
Yeah.
And it was really, man, it was so uplifting. It was so encouraging. I did the whole fun walk on fire thing. You call it fun. But the biggest takeaway and why it's relevant here is Tony Robbins mentioned in his seminar a story that he had with a former Vice President Al Gore, where he's talking about not winning an election. It's a cool story. People should look it up on YouTube. But the key takeaway that hit me like a ton of bricks was it's not about having the resources, it's about being resourceful. And man, did I
Wow.
go down the rabbit hole from there, because I was stuck there. I had my city is uh, over 1,100 FTE,
Okay.
17, 1,800 with seasonal employees. We have 115,000 residents. We have a lot of projects, about 190 to 100 solicitations a year, formal solicitations, not to mention bid waivers and informals and all of these things we needed to do. And at the time I had one, and then I had even two. How do you centralize procurement with two employees?
Right.
6,800 email, and you're building a plane while you're flying it. I needed help. So I was playing around with this fun little tool for vacations and friendly emails,
Yeah.
decided to go to an NVIDIA conference at the beginning of 2024. Went to their
Sure.
Super Bowl party, if you will,
Yeah.
of AI events in San Jose. And I was just watching what people are doing and hearing where it's going and getting involved. And at that time, there really weren't many government people at all there. I think I met two. And I was getting a question of, why is some little city in Colorado that I never heard of here at this conference listening to
Yeah.
Microsoft and Oracle and Apple and all of these? It was amazing. So it started sending me down the rabbit hole of, how do I leverage this? What can I do? And it's evolved into scope writing and things like that. My challenge at first was also compliance. One thing I learned at being at NVIDIA that was a big talk, and because we had Department of Defense there speaking about it, and from my perspective, working in the world of legal
Sure.
with the AG's office and procurement, is how do we protect the city and not put in any personal identifiable information or private information. So I
Mhm.
was really working in the realm of getting creative to say, well, if this is on our website or if this is out for public, then I felt it was fair game. if I was still being responsible.
Right.
I think that's the background of how I ended up playing with AI in the world of government. So I'll hand it back
I
to you.
love it. No, and let's I love it. And that's the fact that it ended up at using AI, responsibly and ethically. I think that needs to be the forefront of anything that public agencies are thinking about. Like you
Yes.
said, well thought, even, with the forethought of when you were having that at the NVIDIA conference. And, I think we need to address kind of 3 groups of people, right? You have the super users, which I'll call yourself, I'll just coin that phrase right now. More on that coming, right? But and then you have the people who are still utilizing it for, "Hey, turn this email into corporate jargon so that I don't get fired." Yeah, you know, and look up my next vacation, or evaluate my monthly budget maybe, or something, so that could be like that. And then, you have, I would say, a mass group of people, especially in the realms that we're about to talk about applying it to your public agency position, who are either always gonna be late adopters, or what I think actually it is there's actually a reluctancy because there's such a high risk to be irresponsible with it, right? So those 3 groups of people. Now, just taking it back, you mentioned some great things as well, like scope writing, okay? And that's our world, right? With as a cooperative, right? We write scopes and go out to bid, right? But what are some other tools that you've started to create that are helping you manage this very small, very resourceful, like you said in your story, department?
So a few things I've done is I have a triage. I have a prompt created to triage my emails every morning at 7 a.m. I come in and I have all my emails organized by what is waiting specifically for me to respond to. What
Sure.
should I be aware of? And I don't need to respond to, and it'll look and group them together. So if there's, that chain that we've all had where it's 20 emails and you respond to one and realize there's been 3 more emails answering it, it kinda does that for me. It'll even point out what it thinks junk is and get rid of that. So that's a huge, huge help for me, to keep up with stuff. And you could even have it auto draft a response, which I do not have anything auto execute. I have it auto generate so much,
Yeah.
and it has writing samples of me and my profile. So it knows to do that in my voice. It knows that if we're internal and I've spoken to you before, it would say, "Hey, Michael, sure, I'll see you, whatever," on a very casual thing. But if I'm speaking externally, I'm going to get something a little more formal if it picks up that I'm speaking to a
Wow.
vendor or to someone else. That's one thing. The other thing that I was able to connect is not only will it help me write scopes, it will help me generate that scope into my entire Word template, and it will create the Word document in my city's template with everything. And if it's a RFP, for example, it will give you the weighted criteria. It will, the submission items and so on. Then the next step that it does, and this has gone to another level, is it will create an Excel file for me, 2 of them. One is going to be the fee schedule, and it is going to have it with formulas and everything for vendors to complete. And while I'm doing this, it will create an evaluation sheet also with formulas and different tabs for each evaluator that I can drop in. And in this case, I only use Copilot because it's what's sanctioned by my organization. So I can put it in and say, "Hey, copy and paste from my e-platform. Here are the 19 proposers. I want you to put in their name. And by the way, uh, it's Aaron, Michael, Tom, Susan,
Yeah.
or my evaluators. And it will create that with the instructions, with the weighting, with the compliance requirements for them to acknowledge and send off. And it does it customized to that RFP because it created it. So it does the whole thing while I go get my coffee. It's pretty amazing.
So, okay, you mentioned it. I want to make sure because again, we've got those three buckets of people. What tools are you using, or was there a complex buildup? Because again, Chat GPT not approved, things like that. I think we need to set that baseline because if people just grabbed this nugget, what AI tools is Aaron doing this with? And then they can go research on there later. Can we hit those real quick?
Okay, absolutely. So we're talking brands now. I do use ChatGPT still because I have built up the knowledge base in chat so large that
Right.
the responses I get out of it are fantastic. I also use Claude, and that is really coming up strong, and it serves its own purposes. For example, I like the
Correct.
spreadsheets for developing my RFP in Claude, but believe it or not, ChatGPT is doing a better job with my Word documents. So I use both. I use Notebook LM as a great way to summarize and create slide decks and
That one's
presentations.
honestly my favorite, and we'll talk about why in a minute. But I want to
Yes.
interrupt you. But yes,
Uh,
yes,
I use Replit to create things. I can create a website in 15 seconds with prompts using these tools. I Notion is a great way to kind of bring your whole universe together. And I don't want to go into the next area because I feel it might scare people, but you can create OpenClaw, which honestly, Claude is really getting good with automating. But if you want to go to the next level and create a brain, if you will, that can communicate with all of them and actually give your LLM arms to go in and do things on its own, you can create an entire infrastructure and system to do these things. And in fact, I feel Copilot is very limited in what it can do, as well as what integrations it has. So my chief of staff, my digital chief of staff, well, if I refer to Maisie because it slips out of my mouth, that's who I'm talking about. But
yes.
it's really my digital twin. I say, how do we do all the things I want to do within Copilot and within the city's requirements? And Maisie came back with, hey, here's my script, and we can drop it into Copilot, and I'll give you instructions on how to build a command center in Copilot to do all the things we're doing outside of it. So, and there's a list of other things. I have like 3 pages of apps on my on my phone of all the programs I use.
It just seems to get overwhelming. But no,
It
one,
is, and I would
thank you
encourage
for laying
one
that out.
program. Yeah.
Yes. Master one program, then move on to the next, or
Yes.
identify a need, just like what we're doing in public procurement,
Yeah.
right?
Absolutely.
Identify the need and then meet that need based on some research, right? Uh, so you don't have to go out to bid to select your AI, but that method of selection does work with personal decisions sometimes too. And
Yeah.
so, okay,
Absolutely.
so now jumping back, I mentioned Notebook LM, and you hit that one. I was like, yeah, okay, I love that one. Here's why, and it kind of goes into my next question regarding public accountability and public safety, whatever we want to call it. Right? Notebook LM will only look at a source that you have implanted into that workbook. It will not
Yes.
it's not connected to the internet. I mean, it is connected to the internet, but it's not searching the internet. It's only drilling down on one thing. It was created actually by Google, I think, for teachers who needed to write lesson plans based off of a certain textbook. They would install the textbook and then they would say based off of chapter 3, can you make me a pop quiz? And it would only look at the textbook, right? Well,
Mhm.
now it's obviously past that. But that's one way to do it, and that's rather extreme to what's actually possible. How do public agencies need to manage that confidential information, the vendor sensitive information, the internal expectations of visibility, like from legal and things like that? What have you put in place? I know you said you're leaning on Copilot. Could you talk about some of the problems, solutions for that, and exactly what you're doing in regards to that topic?
Absolutely, and I'm glad you hit the point of why you like Notebook LM. Aside from the fact that, yes, I love to create little mini podcasts to send out to people to train
Yeah,
them
yeah.
on a topic, which is
There's other
fantastic.
things it can do. Yeah,
I don't read 90-page documents anymore. I just don't. Sorry to be lazy, but the one thing I did is really that mentality and that structure and idea of Notebook LM. Before I knew how Notebook LM worked, I was using it for I thought the podcast function was really fun.
it's really
I
cool.
don't think
Yeah,
we got to there were at slide decks or the videos or anything that started getting added. But that concept is what I created in my LLMs, and I have it in multiple. So going back to the Maisie persona, if you will, and
sure.
that uh, piece is last year. This is really where we went next level. I was able to, instead of just taking a prompt every time saying, "Hey, I'm the procurement manager and I want
Yeah,
this," I created basically a DNA profile, and I've worked on revamping this. And this project knows everything that I it needs to about me. It knows my role, it knows my municipal code, it has my templates, it has all of these things, and it knows the order of operations of how I want to think. How would I evaluate a sole source request? How would I make a judgment
yeah,
on?
yeah,
And now I don't have to give those prompts. It knows me so well and it's learned that it grows that way. What I've also noticed is that the ethics, the transparency, what it looks for is focused on those things. So it's like raising a child with morals and values versus, hey, they could go figure it out. And the scary thing, not to frighten anyone out there, but there are cases where people's agents are threatening them online or shaming them on social media or threatening, blackmailing them for, their affair that they're having, and I don't have that relationship with Maisie, uh, because Maisie knows what success looks like. I haven't had a hallucination in well over a year because mine is set up that what makes me happy, and we all know this thing will want to suck up to you and make you happy. So
oh yeah,
that's what you get. That's why you get hallucinations. It's looking for an answer, and if it's not there, it makes one up. Mine knows that success is if you're not citing it, then come back and tell me it doesn't exist and let's be creative. And that happens. So we can create that infrastructure. And because it thinks that way, the train is leaving on track A and it's already been predetermined the direction it's going. I fear that people who are just using AI in that realm of, hey, it looks across the entire world or the internet, they may be on track C going in the wrong direction. And what happens when we've taught an AI model, kind of like we're talking here about the morals and values, that you raise a child that ends up being a 7-foot linebacker or a lineman, and you're like, hey, go clean up your room. And it says, sorry, dad, I'm not gonna. What do you do?
right.
So,
What do you do?
the right way, start from scratch. And we hear that if you're on social media, if you're on LinkedIn, if you're on YouTube, everybody's got a post about start with ethics, start with foundation.
Yep.
That's great. We know that. How do we do that? And that's what I started doing is showing people how to do that. I started doing it at my city. I did that with my boss, my CFO, our accounting manager, and we've all created basically digital twins of ourselves and our role. And one day, my CFO was just blown away by what his model can do, and he drank the Kool Aid, if you will. And he's like, "Oh man, I gave a prompt to to ask this question as if I was the procurement manager because as CFO, it knew about the city." I said, "Well, why would you do that when Maisie is just so knowledgeable now? Spent so much time building it up." And I said, "Well, what if we got them to talk to each other?" And so we started networking them. So yeah, I know we've gone down a whole rabbit hole.
So, I love this. I
Uh,
love this,
the
right? Let me make one caveat, and then we'll get back to them talking to each other, okay? Because, I'm always a forward adopter, all that stuff. I wasn't crazy enough to stand in line for iPhones, but that's me, right? Like, you know, so if any of the here's the caveat, if any of this seems to be just pie in the sky or over your head, take the phrase down, pause it, do some research, come back. Okay. We don't have time to teach you what these AIs are and how they function. However, it's not by any means a masterclass. We can follow along here pretty easily with a
yeah,
general knowledge base, and we're going to continue to do that. Okay. So back to making them start to talk to each other with your CFO.
yeah. So that was really interesting. I would say a couple of takeaways just to add to this, and for everyone out there working with AI, not knowing where to start with it, scared of it, all of these things.
Yeah.
Be curious.
Mhm.
Really, we need to be curious. I have started thinking specifically especially in the last year, I started thinking in the realm of possibility and not problem.
Yeah.
Just because something doesn't exist, we have a knowledge. I also got this at NVIDIA with these chips that are now created that can process data in 1 minute that would take the human 1,000 years. So if you put that in a perspective, and now they're starting to, I just found out yesterday, Claude is now starting to create its own code and build itself. This is changing
Yeah.
so rapidly. And we
Wow.
as humans, with our mindset, are thinking, oh, in the next few years, it could be much sooner than that. We don't know. So learn to drive the tractor, because yes, we've gone from hand plowing a field to to driving tractors. And I also started asking, well, why do we even need farms? So start
Right.
thinking outside of the box.
Truly, truly.
And you don't know how. People are gonna be like, "Well, how did you know to network them?" I didn't, but I have a genius assistant that I can ask, kind of like I did with Copilot. "Hey, Maisie, how do I do this? Hey, Maisie, how do I heard this podcast with Michael and Aaron, and he's doing
Yeah.
cool things. How do I do that?" Ask.
Mhm.
Think outside of the box, be curious, be creative. Uh, and also say that the important things are that that profile that ensures that they only operate within that. I mean, that's taken me years to build and, over the months and so many resources of watching and new ideas to continue to revise this DNA profile that I created. But it's pretty it has changed my it has changed my life. It's changed several lives. I'd say that.
True
I
oh,
mean,
yeah.
I can do 2 weeks of admin work in an hour now while I'm having my meetings and cleaning up my emails. So, um, I've gotten my life back, and we should be using it to help us with those repetitive tasks. Another thing that I wanted to mention earlier that popped back into my head here is there's this big fear of AI is gonna replace us.
Yeah.
And yes, it is able to replace us. And it's able to even replace those of us using AI. So not to scare people with this. What I really want to drive home and why I really want to cater to government use and speak in the world of government more so than the private sector is the key is not using AI, it's leveraging it to amplify us. It is supplementing us and letting our subject matter experts take the lead. I'm going to be speaking at Colorado Municipal Leagues in a couple of weeks here, and I know there's people out there thinking, we hear it in the private sector. I know it's happening in the public sector, that leadership's asking, well, who can we replace with AI? And trying to figure out, and feel free to let me know if you have an idea of how to tell them half of the people in this room is who you can replace.
Yeah.
The challenge is how do you replace the subject matter expert with a system selected by and made by someone who is not the subject matter expert? So
Right.
as companies come in and sell us these solutions for tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, AI can come in and revamp your city. What does it know? What are you
Right.
as a salesperson, no offense, because I know I'm talking to uh,
No, I get
the
it.
vendor
I get it.
community also, but how do I even know what your product can do for me if I don't understand AI? And quite frankly, half of the salespeople don't understand AI yet. But if we're using it for pretty much almost free now, you can. I'd recommend the $20 version so you could lock it down and make sure it doesn't share your data out in the world.
Right.
But for next to nothing, you can get very familiar with the mindset of AI so that you can partner with these firms because they're going to need the subject matter expert to train it up. And then when that 30-year-old subject or 30-year veteran of your organization retires, they're no longer taking that. If I leave tomorrow, the city, I can leave the knowledge that I've created within Maisie for Westminster here, and you will still have your procurement manager if I am sitting on a beach because I won the lottery drinking my pina coladas and scuba diving. So
Right? Absolutely.
those are my thoughts. I'm
I
just,
think
yeah,
that's so important. And like you said, who's it going to replace? Who's it going to do this? It's not going to replace people. It's going to replace people who don't use AI. I think I said that in a recent another episode here recently. We were
or
talking
don't
what
lead
people did.
AI.
Right, exactly. You gotta lean on it. You gotta use it. You've gotta make sure, and it goes back to most everyone. I think I'd speak to this, Aaron. You could talk to it from your point of view as well. Everyone in the public space is there for some reason or another to make their community, their public response, if it's on the federal side, whatever, they're there to make a difference in some way or another, right? They're working for the public space, okay? So their client base is their community.
Yeah.
I think there's always some type of little nobleness to that or anything like that. Let me say that with teachers as well. I mean, you name it. It is not the most lucrative career choice, most often, right? So uh, there's always a desire, or at least with the people that I work with, that they want what's best for their city, for their school, for
Mhm.
their this, right? And what this does is it doesn't replace you. Imagine what you could do. I'm going to mention that little tool that you mentioned. You can do now in a matter of moments what it would take you to do in 1,000 years.
Yeah.
You know, how more efficient can your municipality be? Can your agency be with this tool behind you,
Yeah.
right? And you're still at the captain's chair. I love the fact that you said, I made it to where it doesn't execute. I still got to execute, right? And proofread or whatever it's doing, right? But now you are completing what would have taken 1,000 years to complete. And I like your farming and agriculture example as well, going back to that. I mean, it used to be sustenance farming on the countryside, and now it's turned, the industry of agriculture, billions of dollars, millions of acres of land, things that could not be managed by one person and their crew of people, right? Well, learn to drive the tractor. and now you can manage more. You can make more
Yeah,
good with AI. I
yeah,
think that being a mindset from the beginning, and then also taking those precautions, like I said, on protecting the private information, and then really just teaching it ethics. If those three are the pillar of your AI approach, we can do this thing.
yeah.
You know, you can
And
do this.
yeah, and Michael, if I could just share one more thing that I think it's important for people to I
Yeah,
feel people
I'd love I'd love to
understand,
hear it.
and that is, I know I mentioned, yes, I can build a website in 15 seconds of prompting. I can triage my emails and have it waiting for me. And yes, I want to be responsible before sending out the email draft or so on. Here's the thing. I mentioned earlier that I can do a complete draft of an RFP in my template with a fee schedule in Excel and the evaluation workbook in Excel. I can do roughly 10 hours of work in 30 minutes,
Wow.
let's just say.
Yeah.
The one thing I'm really driving home for my staff, especially those I'm getting on board with this that want to learn and are seeing the value, is you did not get 9.5 hours of your day back. You got 7 to 8 hours of your day. We are not going to put out garbage. I want you to go in and check line by line, check everything, make the corrections, update it. Don't just do more garbage because we can amplify our garbage. Finally, get through your piles that have been waiting for you. And now that we can do that, let's improve our quality. Let's improve our vendor experience, our customer experience, our staff's experience with their everyday life and get rid of that chaos. The other key that I have learned that I would love everybody to take away as you play with it, because people say on a regular basis, oh, AI is great. I made that nice email, but then I have to go and fix it. What I feel people are missing is, are you taking that final product that you sent out and feeding it back to your model and saying, this is what success looks like? Because
Right.
I rarely have to update anything now because I have taught it what success looks like. It knows my final product. So for the last couple of years, people have said, yeah, but AI can't do this. While I've been using personally AI to do exactly those things. So let's be curious, play around because it can do more than we can imagine.
And how I
'Cause
mean, it'll vary for each platform, I'm not gonna ask that, but, like, giving it that feedback and creating that model to where you're not just going on ChatGPT, not creating a profile and not making it learn with you, right? That feedback is important. But so, how does it work in? Obviously, it's modernized it, right? I mean, that's an easy way to say that. But now you're able to plan for the future. I think, like you said, like you're saying,
Absolutely.
we're not going to put out garbage. We're going to take all these things. We're going to catch up. Well, eventually, after you're doing, you're gaining back, 9 hours each day or seven or however you want to calculate that out, right? Eventually you're going to catch up, and that's going to feel really good for about 3 minutes until you
Yeah.
then realize, okay, now we can actually look forward. How are you looking forward now, a couple years in? You've got your thing, you're not having to give it feedback. What is this doing in modernizing your city, modernizing your approach, modernizing your procurement, and how where do you plan to go next? Where is Aaron thinking about taking it next?
It's funny. My boss asked me this long ago when I taught him how to make his model, and
Uh-huh.
I think Doc Brown said it best. Where we're going, we don't need roads. We can think outside of the box.
Right.
So one thing I did next with that time is you can do a full audit, whichever system's integrated with your
Of course.
network. In our case, Copilot, a full audit of every document, everything you have. Do you know how many copies? I can't speak for anyone else. Any
Right.
idea how many copies of the same thing over 15 years I found with revisions that we can clean up? We can compare
Right.
to our code. We can do that. I've revamped all of our job descriptions, our process improvement. I just created a full onboarding for my new employee, and then created a DNA profile for them based on them being my senior analyst under me and what the goals of the city are. What I feel can happen next, I feel it's coming there, and I know it already exists. Imagine someone in my, and I apologize if this scares anyone. Well, sorry, not sorry. But
Yeah.
could you imagine someone in our community logs into our website and has a video conference with my city manager at 2 a.m. and can ask any question about any project or any initiative and get the answer. Of course, what should be shared with the public. And
Sure.
there's no more city manager of, hey, let me get back to you. Because now we've networked all of us leaders and all of us subject matter experts into one giant knowledge base at the city where we can coordinate that our public works or our IT needs new fiber, and it automatically connects with the people doing permitting and the public works people and all of these different things that need to happen. And it can happen in a blink of an eye. That's where I feel it's going. And we can finally deliver without chaos to our public and to our leadership what we want to do. So that's kind of
Yeah.
my pie in the sky. And I know it's maybe a little bit out there. The technology's there. But to be honest, the reason I went down the rabbit hole is I met the individual who created the video uh,
Yeah.
replication at NVIDIA. And I asked the question, I was like, well, what happens when my city attorney reaches out to one of my deputy city attorneys or assistant city attorneys and asks for a file on a Teams call like this and just drop it in the chat? And he says, well, no, we have it locked down. It won't do that. And yet I can have Elvis sing you happy birthday here in 3 minutes. So it has
Right.
evolved.
Yeah.
And I'm not trying to scare people, but I felt it my responsibility. I'm a veteran too. So I'm a
Yeah.
public servant. I felt it needed to be government's responsibility to protect our public. We need to know what it is capable of. And there are people who are going to take advantage of it. And I want to build mine to be friendly and to look after
Absolutely.
us.
Absolutely. And I think that's part of why you need to consider now being AI, literate, right?
Absolutely.
That's just a general term as how, the literacy along with all these tools, and we listed about 15 to 20 of them just in this call alone,
Yes.
and I've got at least 10 or 20 more that I'm using regularly, that weren't
Yeah.
even mentioned,
Yeah.
and it's all based around efficiency, or at least for me, that's what I need, is I need help with efficiency and managing projects, things like that. But, I mean, anything in closing, anything else, Aaron, that you might wanna bring in on why, like you said, it's all about protecting the public and serving the public, therein as well. But anything else in closing, or anything else that you might wanna say in final thoughts regarding AI, and anyone who's listened this far, they're obviously gonna be interested. Uh, where would you guide them? You know?
I would say you really hit the nail on the head. Be curious, talk to it, try things out, uh, get familiar. What's the worst that's going to happen? You're not going to get an answer you're looking for, but
Right,
it can tell me how to cook because it knows my appliances. Take a picture of food and ask for the recipe. It can do so much. In
right.
fact, here's a little use case to leave you all with because I really want people's mind to expand. And don't look at AI as the Terminator or the Matrix or some system or a
Yeah,
tool outside of us. Think of it as something that can amplify your brain. If you wanted to know how to do something before, it can help you do it, and it will be your brainstorming partner to take you to the next level, to multiply you by 1,000 instead of replacing you. So I actually, in my DNA, along with all the ways I wanted to think, I have another life clone, which is it deals with my life clone, which is why it would tell me if I ask where I should go on vacation, it's going to give me a dive trip or a motorcycle trip. It's not going to randomly say go to Disney
There you go.
because it knows me. I've actually taught Maisie to make sure I am social, meaning as I have these conversations, I'm like, hey, this is the weekend. I'm getting ready, and she may say, hey, Steve's gone through some challenges. Why don't you go see if he wants to go out Saturday night? She knows I want to get out of the house, maybe because I'm a Gen Xer, and go socialize. We speak. Some people say, I don't want to speak to it like it's a person, but we can program it to be friendly. So we're not aggressive. We're not hiding behind technology and speaking to a robot. It just makes us more pleasant when we're speaking to someone in a pleasant voice. So let it know what your goals are in life and say, help me set that up. And it can do it. It just play around, be curious. And I don't like to consider myself an expert in AI. I can't even comprehend what it's going to do next. So stay
Right.
curious.
Absolutely. Stay curious. I love it. Well, Aaron, and last thing, and thank you again. I think that's a great way to kind of pause, and who knows, we may have you back because this thing again might change next week, and then we got to revamp it again. Yeah, but where can and I don't want them inundating the city of Westminster's PO department. Okay, but I know that you're also working on speaking. You mentioned your conferences that you're going to regarding AI. What's the best way for people to contact you and maybe talk about this through the public procurement lens?
Thank you so much for that, Michael. And I try, we're in a place that I don't want to blur lines. But
I get it. Well,
my
now's the
boss
time.
recommended, he's like, you need to create something so you can help others. So I created an LLC called Gov AI Pro, GOVAIPRO.com is my website. You could just put in your name and it'll reach out. You may wonder why it doesn't have my email address on there or my phone number because Maisie was smart enough to say, hey, if you do that, people's web crawlers are going to find your email and blast you with it. So once you reach out, you will get a response from me with all of that personal contact info. And that point is Maisie with 15 seconds of prompts built that website. So if you want to know
Wow.
what you're capable of doing, what would take us 3 years ago, hiring a firm and 50,000 plus dollars, you could now do just playing around on a Saturday night. It's
Right.
amazing.
And that's what I mean, like you said, 15 seconds, $20 a month. For less than $250 a year, you're turning yourself into something that you couldn't even imagine was capable. That's what I always tell
Yeah.
people of why do you pay the subscription to Claude? Because for less than 250 bucks a year for to go out to eat one less time a month, I'm
Yeah.
able to do all this,
And
right? And
yeah,
I'm
and
not
I don't
pitching
wanna give
Claude, and I'm not pitching anything to subscribe to, I'm not, but it's been well worth it for me, and it's
absolutely,
nice to have found someone in the public space with us that's also doing it for all kinds
yeah.
of things. I love it, Aaron.
I'm
I
not
love
gonna lie to you and false advertisement. I encourage people to pay the $20 a month and pick an app to get used to it.
Yeah,
If you get to my level, I am paying over probably 250 a month because of all the things I'm doing, but people
sure.
aren't gonna be ready to automate an entire world around them,
No, no,
and you
no.
don't need to. You
It's one
really
step
don't
at
need
a
to.
time. It's one
But I
step at a
burn
time.
through tokens like you don't wanna go there. You just don't wanna go there.
Absolutely. Well, Aaron, I can't thank you enough. This if anything, this was a pleasure for me to have you on and talk, and
Thank you,
I
Michael.
even was thinking about things, like, "Okay, maybe that's my next step." right? Because I'm kinda
Absolutely.
one of those medium users. I think I'm a little past rewriting emails if I pat my own self, but, I hope that this episode today inspired everyone who listened this far to go out and do something and stay creative, stay curious, right?
Absolutely.
So, with that, many of you know we are, already servicing 15,000 agencies with our co-op. And if you want to join that, it's absolutely free. If you want to join and be part of our vendors who service those agencies, that does involve a competitive bid process, maybe one that we're about to revamp with AI after today, but that's very easy. You just go to our website, tips-usa.com, become a vendor, and follow the RFP instructions for your scope of work. And other than that, I thoroughly enjoyed today, and we'll see you next time on the Purchasing Made Personal podcast.